collects your location, your device details, browsing history, biometrics, which includes your face and voice data. It's important to enhance more of a comprehensive data privacy legislation that regulates the data collection practices across all apps, both domestic and foreign. I think from a policy perspective, there has to be unification, whether it's TikTok or any other social media. TikTok as a means to exploit its platform and deliver malware or other cyber threats to user devices because it's just so popular.
From the latest security concerns to the newest innovations, this podcast covers it all, offering insightful discussions on the world of technology, cybersecurity, and its ever-evolving role in our lives. Hi everyone, I'm your host, Duronke, and I've got a very great episode for you today. Welcome back to the Security Bench podcast. Let's dive in. I have a great topic for you today. As you have previously said, today we're going to be talking about TikTok ban in Canada. And with me, the guest on the show today is Sam. Sam is the president for xahive, a cybersecurity company that operates across North America, South America, and even has a presence in the UK. Welcome to the show, Sam. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Duronke, for this opportunity. And I'm doing well. I'm excited to speak about this topic. It's certainly a lot of buzz around it.
That's true. There's a lot of buzz about TikTok, not just in Canada, but even other countries. Before we go into that, I know you have strong background in policy, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity. Can you tell us, give us a brief intro about what you do?
Okay, so I am CEO and co-founder of xahive, a cybersecurity company. So my area of focus is more on governance risk compliance. I have over 22 plus years of experience, both in private sector and public sector. And I really gained a lot of experience having worked in public sector and the transferable skill sets that I brought along with it from a policy background to the cyberspace. So that's where I've been able to utilize both of those skill sets together. But I was very privileged and blessed and lucky to have been senior advisor for several ministers and even some prime ministers on certain files that I've worked on through my time with the Canadian government.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's
Thank you.
very impressive.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be talking about TikTok. I know that's the name that most people know it for, but this is a company called ByteDance. It's a Chinese company. And of course, even if you don't know ByteDance, we've seen a lot of TikTok reels, either from the young ones or even to advertise. In fact, I believe that almost every company wants to have a presence on TikTok if they don't already have. However, the buzz going around, especially this last few weeks, has been that the Canadian government has banned the operation of TikTok in Canada. Considering the way the world is going right now, I noticed that branding is done through content, the social media, of which TikTok is one of the prominent players. So what do you think about this ban? What do you think? What's happening here and what's going on? Do you have any information?
Yeah, so I think, Canada isn't, they haven't officially done a full ban. It's a partial ban, right? So and they're doing it from a national security perspective because they're concerned about the data of the users involved that could be online, especially if you're government officials, because it collects your location, your device details, browsing history, biometrics, which includes your face and voice data. And because, as you had mentioned before, ByteDance is headquartered in China, their laws potentially require companies to provide the government with access to user data upon request. So this raises a lot of concerns that sensitive information about citizens, especially government officials, could be exploited by a foreign government, in this case being China. But this is the concern that a lot of other countries have also put forth in their partial bans. So there's approximately 17 countries. It's so we're just following, what's happened in the
Hmm.
U.S. and of course also in Europe and so on. So as well as some other countries in Asia as well, including India, and so it's just a matter of time of like trying to focus on, you know, it. I know we're trying to look at it from a national security perspective, but
Hmm.
we also need to not just focus on TikTok itself, but I think what we're forgetting is we have other apps as well that we all utilize from a government perspective or from a business perspective to share and disseminate information. But I think what will help is if there is a system in place that develops a unified national policy that clearly outlines the security standards for all apps. So, particularly those with foreign ownership, right? So,
Oh,
and then
okay.
by standardizing this would create clarity and then ensure that all entities, whether it's citizens or government officials or businesses, um, whatever information that they're, sharing, they know and are well aware of the same security expectations. So, because oftentimes people can, you know, still get on TikTok, even though they may not be utilizing it obviously from a government phone or government laptop. They may be using it on their private, computers, right? So I think it's important to enhance more of a comprehensive data privacy legislation that regulates the data collection practices across all apps, both domestic and foreign.
Yeah, thank you. I like that you brought that in, although that's one of the things we're going to discuss later,
Okay.
in the sense that there's no unified policy. Because I wanted to ask, I
Yeah.
mean, TikTok is not so much different from, what's it called, Instagram. I know those are owned by the United States. And
Hmm.
honestly, I also believe that, our data is also not, protected, right?
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
would be nice really to have that uniform. This is the rule. If just like they made the GDPR for the
Yes.
European country, to say that if you're going to be dealing with our citizens' data, these are things you should have in place and all that. That would really be cool for people to have that. But that's not the angle that I wanted to talk about. You brought it up that because there could be foreign interference and all that.
Yeah.
So from my knowledge now, this ban has not completely removed TikTok from the lives of Canadians, because you still have it on the app. You can still go to the app store and download it. And if you know, then it means that, they could still see my data. In fact, I think it's more difficult now because the little oversight that we have on Biden's as a company operating here is no longer visible. They're now operating from afar while our citizens are using the app. What do you think? That's what I'm thinking. That's the way. And maybe this goes down to the point you made that had there been a standardized policy, that would have been easier, or what do you think about that? Yes. Well, what are you?
I think from a policy perspective, there has to be unification on whether it's TikTok or any other social media, because as much as we want to just focus on TikTok, you're right. Like by removing their offices here, we may not be able to hold them to the same accountability as we had earlier. However, yes, it is going to be much more difficult because China has its own regulations, its own laws, its own entity. So it is definitely going to pose a lot more issues. But I think why they've also gotten a lot of heat is not just from a national security perspective, but also I think there's been a lot of uproar from a lot of parents as well, because there's being a parent yourself and like me, their access, I guess, in terms of privacy risks and data collection related to minors is really, I think, something that should be questioned. You know what I mean? And in addition to obviously from a national security perspective, um, there's always collecting all of this data, which is stored outside, you know, initially in these different countries where ByteDance is I guess, situated, but now that's being shared with China's data regulations, right? Of because it's part of their third-party regulatory requirements. So while TikTok asserts that user data is stored outside of China, critics argue that there's still risk in it because it could be accessed through legal or extra legal means, like within China because of their laws. As well, from a cybersecurity perspective, there's a lot of phishing scams targeting young or the minors who are on it because they are much more vulnerable than
That's true.
adults, and they don't have the experience, especially when they're looking at fraudulent accounts, sharing sensitive information. And then something else I've heard about is that, and read about, is that um, there's a lot of harmful trends that, so because TikTok's algorithms, they want to increase the usage. So if something's trending, they're not really focused on the fact that it's a minor versus an
No,
adult. So
that's watching.
yeah,
That's
so it's exposing them to a lot of mature, violent, or harmful content, which is completely inappropriate. I know for some of the other apps that are developed in North America, there is requirements, and now you have to get parental consent to,
that's
for
correct. Yes. Yeah.
Instagram and so on. So
Yeah.
if
So
there is,
are you saying, sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah,
cut you, but are you saying TikTok doesn't have any parental consent or all those guidance? I don't
I
even have the app myself.
I
Is that what
don't
you're saying?
I don't have the app myself, but I've just from what I've read that it's not as stringent as the other app
Hmm.
privacy requirements. You know what I mean? So
I
it's
think this is where the policy you're talking about really comes in.
because we
You
need,
understand?
yeah, we need to have a
Yeah.
uniformed way of regulating
Vetting all
this.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
because
true.
if
That's true.
not, you're going to have different players. It's TikTok now, and who knows what's going to be trending in the next couple of weeks or next year. So it's all about
That's true.
we need to ensure that whatever comes into play, that we protect the youth,
The children. Yeah, the
and
youth. Yeah.
especially because a lot of them deal with mental health concerns as a result of
It's,
whatever they've
I know,
shared,
right? The what they've seen and
yeah.
all that, with all the suicide
Mhm.
thoughts and trends. I
Yep.
know as a mother myself, I'm concerned now with
Yep.
things that I'm hearing. It's really concerning. It's
And
concerning.
I think also like there's challenges around monitoring the content because the parental
Mm.
control features are hard to enforce because kids can find ways around it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
So
know.
especially young ones. I mean,
And the teenagers, yes,
yeah. I
yes,
mean, not even even younger kids can figure. So if you don't, it's really difficult to fully control or understand the content that's being recommended to children as parents. So that's something as well, I think we need to really monitor with this partial ban, that they've implemented. But there should be some more comprehensive policies that are robust, that from that perspective.
yeah. That's interesting. The other thing I wanted to discuss is, but now hearing all these facts, I was going to balance this vis-a-vis the loss of employment.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that Bidens operate here. In a way, I feel that they're contributing to the economy because they are renting office space, and for sure they've hired some local employees
Hmm.
who obviously are from this country. With this operation being shut down now, I believe those people will be out of work. And of course, I know, um, the space could be rented to someone else. But in a way, so this is a matter of how, balancing security concerns against, social, should I say the social economy,
Yeah.
people that are displaced and out of job. I was just trying to even find out how many employees do they have that are from here. I couldn't find much information. I was seeing something like maybe they have 65 open positions, and in the trending technology areas, AI, ML. Recently, our youths are complaining they're not getting employed. I was like, oh my God, see how these opportunities are now going to disappear. But then if there's security concerns, I think that should take priority over whatever is going on. And
Yes.
what you have mentioned a moment ago, that there's no way to control. There are also trends, on this TikTok content that youths tend to follow, or sometimes, they want to take shots, all in the space of trying to create media content, and
Yeah.
this could lead to dangerous situations, or even having scams like, romance scams and all
Yeah.
that. I feel that these are avenues where our youths get lured into all these kind of things. Do you know if this is one of the reasons, or we're talking of espionage in the sense that intelligence is being gathered? It's not just about looking at people's information or data. Do you think they're also using this, or is there some kind of covert operations going on? I mean, we wouldn't know, but do you know anything? I know you've worked with policy before, but can you tell us more that you think there's anything along that line?
Yeah, well, I think I can see it could definitely serve as a vector for espionage because you're gathering information on individuals, right? Or if they're providing insight into government activities, whether advertently or inadvertently, because when people have conversations, people are talking on TikTok like you and I are conversing right now. Do you know what I
Okay, I
mean?
know.
And
Yes,
when you're sharing information, you don't often have the opportunity to like vet what you've done, and when you've
that's true.
uploaded it, it's sometimes it's too late. You know what I mean? So it's
It
already
is
out
late.
there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so I can definitely see how if they were to gain access to sensitive areas, whether it's from a military perspective or secure government networks, for example, it could become a huge security risk, right? So whether it's indirectly, such as that data that's used to detail behavior or location profiles, or even for example, users in key positions, right? And if they're sharing information and they don't even realize it, there's, you're opening yourself up to these potential vectors. So that's another thing. And the other thing I think also attached to that, Duranke, is the whole malware risk, right? So because TikTok is trending, and it's not just TikTok, it could be other cyber criminals who may use, TikTok as a means to exploit its platform and deliver malware, or other cyber threats to user devices because it's just so popular. And it's not just popular in North America, it's popular globally, right? And then um, in terms of software, they could exploit code vulnerabilities, or if malicious actors exploit these, then it could lead to unauthorized access to devices, allowing them for surveillance, data theft, or other malicious activities. And we don't even know it. Like it could just be recording continuously. And we're thinking, oh, well, we're being secure because we're not using our government phones or whatnot. But actually, we may have exposed ourselves unintentionally. Yeah.
That's true. That is so true. You made the key point there. It's not just there. So why do you think it took so long there? Because based on what I'm reading, the government has banned it on government devices
Yeah.
since to 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
And
right.
this is a whole year later. Now the operations is being banned from Canada. And then the ads are still residing on our devices. You were just making a key point, an oversight I almost forgot. It's not just about the app alone. It could be an entry point to
Yeah.
other information that we have on our
Exactly.
personal devices, which is why I think we shouldn't just stop at banning the operations, but maybe they should do a key, analysis, risk analysis. What are the other possible avenues? If other countries, I think you said a country has banned it outrightly, maybe we could
Yeah.
do our own risk analysis. And I also believe that these governments, they collaborate, they share information. I'm hoping that, this is the case and we can review all of this and protect our citizens from
Hmm.
all these, applications that are not sensitive to our data and all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
think
believe.
I think if there was better data management practices and better monitoring practices that are required by the various apps, regardless of whether they're domestic or international. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's going to make a huge difference because I know there's precedents, right? Like as you had mentioned, the US, Europe, and India have considered or implemented various levels of restrictions based on national security
Oh, okay.
concerns,
That's
right?
great.
So these actions, however, they reflect a growing concern on potential risks associated with the platform. But I think what's really missing is making sure that um, there is that uniformity, as in terms of the policy for these, um,
Media,
monitoring.
social media,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, for
the
social
social
media and
media
just
apps.
monitoring them in terms of data
Yeah.
privacy legislation and that regulates data collection practices across all apps and ensuring there's consistent standards
Fancy. Yeah, I
for
agree
data
with that.
security and transparency in data sharing as well.
Transparency. That's one of
Yeah.
the things that was, the exact risk and,
Hmm.
transparency. It has to be. There
Because
has to be that.
I think another thing that you had asked earlier, and I'm sorry if I didn't bring it up, but it's related to free speech and public discourse, right? You obviously want to implement by implementing a balanced regulatory framework on transparency requirements that actually enables you to still have free speech and public discourse without outright banning. So this way you could be required to disclose data practices if you ask, the different
Organizations or the vendors. Yeah.
organizations, yeah, to
Yes.
disclose the data practices, content moderation policies, allowing users to make informed choices while respecting free speech rights. So, because you obviously want to ensure that you still enable. I mean, we live in a
This
democracy,
is it.
so
Yeah, I
you want to
know.
be
Yeah,
able
I
to
know.
ensure
Yeah,
there's democratic means in place, right? So, but
I
I think
know.
by
It's a
doing this,
balance. Yeah.
it's a fine balance for sure. It's but I think this will help.
Yeah, it's a great point you made there. That's a great point. If you notice, like with organizations or even government,
Mm,
before we bring in any app, before we onboard it, we do all those detailed risk analysis, assessments, and all that. Unfortunately, this is not the way it plays with personal applications. We're just believing that the company, the vendor that has put it out there in the app store is
mm-hmm.
following certain practices. And you and I, being cybersecurity experts, know that it's not like that. So that's exactly what is happening here. So if the government can mandate and provide more of this, it will help the people before they go to the app stores to download all these applications, TikTok, Instagram. We're just believing until something happens. And then
Yeah,
we realize that our data or Telegram, I think there's so many of them
yeah.
out there, Telegram, Instagram, TikTok, so many apps that is in use today. I hope our data is protected. That's a good one. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
yes, I'm hoping that something will come out of this, and maybe we'll discuss this more. Let's see how this whole thing unfolds. I believe that one of the industry that is affected are the content creators.
Yeah.
I went online and a lot of them are not happy at all because they've generated a lot of income from using TikTok. Some people that even make movies, they said they would never have heard about their names if not for TikTok, because few of them get access to the normal channel to create content. whether it's a normal channel, maybe create movies,
Yeah.
be a music, create music. Some of them I know have the means. So an app like TikTok comes around and provides that opportunity. But now it's been taken away. I see that complaints. But what you stated in terms of if the government can make sure there's that transparency, cyber risk assessment, and at the same time, balancing the freedom because we're in a
Yeah.
democratic world. I hope all this, I hope someone is listening to this conversation and I hope they will take note of it. And yes, that's what I think. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
Do you have
welcome.
any last words for our
Um,
listeners today?
I think just to reiterate, I mean, definitely develop a unified national policy that outlines the security standards, as you had mentioned, for all apps, whether it's domestic or foreign owned, and ensuring that there's a standardization and people are clearly aware of the different, you know, um, privacy and cyber requirements as well, and that all entities are held to the same security expectations. So I
Yeah,
think that will enable free speech. The content folks will be happy, but and also better monitoring systems in place for minors. We definitely need to ensure that they're
we do.
protected as well. So that's
We do.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Same. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Take
Take
care.
care. Bye.
Bye.